Saba's in the middle. Wednesday here could seal it. Gassman finds Bissar.
It's now Bannon. Bannon with a great ball in. Here's an opportunity. Palmer scores! Liam Palmer has scored for Sheffield Wednesday.
Absolutely abysmal. That's the third defeat on the bounce. 9 goals that we've conceded without reply. We're playing a style of play that just isn't working, and something has to change, and pretty quickly too. Hello and welcome to Wednesday Till I Die podcast. I'm James Mappin, and with me to talk about that absolutely shocking performance yesterday is Matt Johnson. Matt, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. Where do we start?
Oh, can we talk about everything up until 2:55? Because it was a great day up until 2:55. I'd had a wonderful time up until kickoff.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, you was there. We'll talk about your away day in a second. But yeah, I asked people on Twitter to sum up yesterday's game in a song. There's been some absolute pearlers. What would your one song title be from yesterday?
Oh, very, very good question. And you did give me some prep, and I didn't have it loaded for you. I should have known that this was coming.
I'll read some of the ones out that people have had. Chumbawamba, Tub Thumping. Coops has gone with Help. Alex, if I had a gun, I'd shoot myself. Mikey, I hate myself for loving you, from Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Mark Rutherforth has gone with Tragedy from Steps. I sent you that one earlier. Jeff Punter's gone with Candle in the Wind. Steve Haggerty, Things Can Only Get Better. I really hope they can as well. What was yours, Matt?
I had Trainwreck by James Arthur and Bad Day by Daniel Powter. So I'll give you those two.
Yeah, they're good ones. I have to say. Hit Me Baby One More Time from Britney Spears was mine, and yeah, I said Tragedy as well. Yeah, some great ones there to kick us off. Before we get into the match, then, Matt, and before we get the violins out and have a therapy session, which I think quite a lot of people will be hoping for on this episode. Yeah, the away day. Millwall away. How many times have you done Millwall away now? Is a couple?
Two for two on consecutive years. But I was there in February and then was there for this. But I think the one previously it was a Tuesday night. I think Chris Maguire scored for us. It was about 2013. I want to say 2012-13 season. Okay. But yeah, had been a long time since I'd been before February, and then. In February, realised that, oh my God, actually, London Bridge is a fantastic place to go drinking. There are so many pubs. So yeah, I every time I go to London, I am always reminded of I would not want to live there. But for an away day, it's an absolute belter.
Yeah. How did your day start, Matt?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, really good. So half 6, I'd set my alarm for. I'd clearly woke up and snoozed it. But thankfully, it wasn't just me getting it in the neck, because I was supposed to be on the 7:30 train and ended up on the 9:30 train, because also my dad had also slept in as well. So I was really grateful for that. I got a message going, shit, I've overslept. If you're on the way to the station, sack it off. I was like, right, okay, brilliant.
So what did you say to your dad? Like, oh, fucking hell, Dad! Like, you know, can't believe it. I'm on my way. Whilst you're like just brushing your teeth or whatever.
I wish I'd have played it off that call. I was just stood there with a cup of coffee in the kitchen and just sent him a photo. Went good, because I was nowhere near ready to leave. That was about 7:10. So yeah, ended up on the 9:30 train into Euston. Got to Euston, go across to London Bridge.
Euston, we have a problem. That came a little bit later, I guess.
Yes, I love that. And then went to a couple of pubs around London Bridge. Was Old King's Head, which is like a hole in the wall boozer, like proper sticky floor vibes. It's really good. It's really, really good. But again, the amount of police that come out for it must be the safest away day that you'll go on nowadays, Millwall, because outside of the two pubs that we went into, there were 4 riot vans and must have been about 30 coppers.
I don't think there's ever any trouble at Millwall because you can't do anything. You can't fart if we have Copper coming over to you, I guess.
No, not now. Not nowadays. I'm sure it was a lot more of a pickle back in the day. But also, it's like a tourist hotspot in it, London Bridge. Like, you've got Borough Market over the road, where I know there's been some great fan footage come out from Borough Market over the weekend with Wednesdayites sort of descending there en masse. We went into the George, which is like a big courtyard pub. Apparently, it's quite a famous old pub in London. I wouldn't want to do it in December when it's pissing it down, but yeah, in September when it's kind of like half sunny, half warm, it was great. Met up with two of this parish previously in Jack and Lewis, and spent a good 2 hours just sort of chewing the fat and chatting shit before there, and then. Got the train up to Millwall, got in, and that's where all the trouble started, really.
Yeah, definitely. Or should I say, where the day went a little bit downhill.
Yes,
more than that. But let's get into the game then, because we've got so much to talk about. When we win, it's great, isn't it? Like, there's not a lot to talk about. It goes quite easy. When the results not gone our way, a lot, especially on social media anyway, a lot comes out, which is you might agree with, you might disagree with, but we'll talk about quite a lot of it. Normally we talk about kind of the overall thoughts, but I want to talk about the starting lineup first. Let's start at the beginning. It would be in goal, Valerie, Ihekwe, Bernard and Max Lowe, Shea Charles and Bannon. Then it was Masaba, Jamal Lowe, Ugbo and Gassama. So it's 4 changes. Ugbo, Gassama, Shea Charles and Ihekwe. Obviously Shea Charles making his debut, having only signed earlier on in the week. Out was Iofa with what thought was a little niggly injury. Ingleson, Windass and Valentine all dropped away midway. What did you make to that starting lineup? Because for me, I felt, the fact that there was no Iofa was a little bit of a concern, considering we'd not brought any, reinforcements in. I suppose if we had brought anyone in on Friday, they probably wouldn't have played on Saturday anyway. But I was pleasantly surprised to see Shea Charles, but I certainly think it was needed anyway.
Yeah, I understood the selection of Ihekwe over potentially for Maywo from the kind of threat that Millwall traditionally pose and actually ended up posing to us on the game yesterday. From a big centre half of kick it, head it. It felt like it was going to be a bit more of a sort of a Preston away from New Year's Day, Boxing Day, like Christmas time last year. Yesterday, and so obviously so it proved. So I did understand that selection. Me personally, I said it on Friday, I said it the week before, I said I think we need to be playing a 3 in midfield, and as it turned out, it was almost like a flat 4 at the back, with then, from my reading of it anyway, with a 2 of Shea Charles and Bannon, and then sort of a 2 in Masaba and Gassama, then Lowe and Ugbo, and it all just looked a bit... It all just looked a bit disjointed. Like, in terms of, from the actual setup initially, I was concerned about how, I don't want to say lightweight, because we probably haven't seen enough of Shea Charles to determine whether he's a lightweight sort of player or not. But it looked like that we were going to struggle with that central midfield pairing against a really competitive and combative side in Millwall. And then I was pleased to see Gassama come back into the side, because I think he is, in terms of progressing the ball at the pitch, I think he is probably the best player that we have at the club to be able to do so. Jamal Lowe and Ike Ugbo worked on Tuesday night as a partnership, so again I can understand the logic there. Anthony Masaba seems to be able to do no wrong at the minute in terms of from a selection perspective for Danny Roll. I understood it, but it wasn't something that I was particularly thrilled upon us, I would say, at 2:05 when I'd noticed that the team needs to come out.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? And it's difficult sometimes to kind of go back to what you felt like, at 2:00 when the team news came out versus, how you feel now when you look back at it. Because there's a lot of people that's been saying, Masaba and Gassama just don't work when they play together. A lot of people saying very lightweight and stuff. I mean, look, just looking at the starting lineup on face value, and going back to what I felt like at 2:00. I felt like it was attacking. I felt like, I was, I was pleased to see Shea Charles in there because I thought, well, that's given, certainly having looked at his numbers and how, the clips on YouTube and stuff, when you see how calm he's on the ball, I thought, well, yeah, that's probably something that we definitely need alongside Bannon. For being perfectly honest, I would have preferred to see Ingleson in there and then perhaps sacrifice one of Masaba or Gassama and play Jamal Lowe out wide and see kind of how that worked. But as you said, Lowe and Ugbo worked quite well up top. On Thursday or Friday on the press conference, when Rob Staten posed the question about, playing both of them up top, he said, "Yep, it's something we've been looking at as well." So I suppose they were the early signs. And yeah, I wasn't overly concerned with what I saw. I thought, yeah, it's like I said, it's attacking. Maybe we can get in behind. Lots of pace. When you look at Jamal Lowe, Masaba, and Gassama, we're talking about this in pre-season. Like, defences are going to shit themselves when they see that sort of pace. Sadly, Millwall didn't shit themselves at all. They found it quite easy to play against them, to be honest. I'm glad that Valentin, not that he was dropped, but we kind of ditched that way of playing. It was clearly a way just to stop Nonto from Leeds, the week before. So yeah, like I said, all in all, it was great. A bit of a concern that Iofa's not playing, and we are having to play Ekwa. One thing I want to say, and again, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but in terms of that starting lineup, I do feel in the last two games we've adapted the lineup and the style of play and how we want to approach a game to suit the opposition. Where do you stand with that, Matt? Are you one of those where you've got to respect the opposition and you've got to, it's good to kind of counteract their strengths and kind of play on their weaknesses, or are you one of those where play your own game and let them worry about you more than you worry about them? Which kind of camp are you in?
It is a really interesting question. I think my answer goes in two parts, really. I think you have to have a set of principles and a way in which and a style in which that you would like to play football, no matter which personnel that you select for a game. I don't think you can flip-flop between styles. I don't think you can go from one game passing to one game thumping it long. Personally, I don't think that works. I think that you might be able to get results in the immediacy, but I don't think that works for a long-term plan, because what it leaves is players in the long term being confused about exactly what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Having said that, I also think it's important to recognise that we are Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, not Man City. So you can't just say, oh no, this is exactly what we're going to do. This is the exact principle that we want. We want to play the ball out from the back. We want to do this. And it doesn't matter who we come up against. We are just going to stick blindly to that. Because quite simply, if our players were capable of doing that, they would not be playing for Sheffield Wednesday Football Club at this point in time. So I do think that it's important to have those established principles and way in which that you want to work. But I do also think that you do have to you would be stupid not to look at the opposition and think, right, where are we going to get tested to get today? And is our ideal of how we would like to play suited to this? And are we going to need to make some changes or adaptations to that? And again, I agree with you in terms of Masaba, Jamal Lowe, Ike Ugbo and Gassama. I think it was very clear that the intent was to go out and make a statement and be incredibly attacking and actually get the ball forward quickly into those wider areas in behind sort of the right back and left back of Millwall and build off those particular positions. It just didn't turn out that way. So again, I understood the selection. It's not something that I would have gone with. I understood the selection. I understand why it was done, but it ultimately just proved to be a bridge too far at this point in time for the squad.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the Sunderland 4-0, we went into that game and perhaps did just try and play our own style. You're going to do that, given the result the week before, beating Plymouth 4-0. And I feel like because of that, and people have said that Danny's naive to do that, and it's another battering that we've had. He's then in the next two games, he's gone, all right, then, well, I'm going to kind of adapt a little bit to kind of suit what they're going to be trying to do or combat what the opposition is trying to do. it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I suppose if we'd have just gone and played our own game and had the same scoreline, we'd probably have a similar conversation by saying, well, we knew that Millwall were going to be like that. Why don't we try and play a little bit different? So, whenever you come away with a defeat, the solution is always to do something opposite to what you did. Like it's only natural to be like that. So yeah, Danny's probably looking now and thinking, fucking hell, if I play how I want to play, I've got hammered. And then if I adapt the style of play or my selection, we get beat as well. He's probably thinking, well, I just don't really know what to do. But I think this is just there's just such a small sample size, isn't there, really, as well? We're 4 games in. All right, you've got 6 if you count the 2 cup games. We've got 4 league games to look at, and we're talking about a 4-0 defeat against a team that's won every single game so far this season and on 100% record. And at the time, 2 games in or even 1 game in, you're not really going to know that. When we were top of the league after one game. Mm-hmm. So it's again, it's easy to say things after the event, but yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit like you, really. There's a part of me that says if you're that good and you're playing the way that you play, and make them think about you more than the other way around. That's kind of my initial thoughts, which I think against Millwall, I think really we perhaps should have done that a little bit. Leeds, Burnley. I was going to put Luton in there, but they've had a terrible start to the season. But those teams that are up there, and you could argue, well, we're going to add United into the mix there, but that's a derby, so that goes all out of the window. And that's going to be a bit of a battle, that one. But I think against some of the top sides, where, especially away from home, yes, maybe. I don't know. I would have perhaps preferred just to play how we wanted to play yesterday.
Yeah, and I take your point, James. I think it was just if you looked, I suppose, a little bit closer than what the scoreline suggested that Millwall have played in terms of their league games, because they've been involved in some thrillers so far this season. The numbers suggest that they don't have a problem scoring goals. The numbers suggest that they really struggled defensively up until yesterday, where they looked world class defensively.
Yeah.
I suppose with Neil Harris, he is a very similar manager to your Warnock, your Tony Pulis, your Sam Allardyce, and I don't mean that as a disrespect. I mean that in the sense of he's a manager who you know exactly what you are going to get from him, and it's can you stop his teams doing that? He's not all of a sudden going to become this wonderful footballing brain and manager. He is a manager who demands certain things from his team, and it is dependent on his team's outworking, outmuscling, all of those old adages of kind of like everything that kind of every single football fan and professional football player understands, earning the right to play football and impose your style. He suggests if you do the basics better than your opposition, there is a high chance you will be successful in games. And you could argue, just looking at Millwall's results with the benefit of hindsight, that they have just been unlucky to go away from home and score 4 goals. 9 times out of 10, you win that game. Like, it's really unlikely that you get beat 5-4. And then your game at home where you go and score 3, again, highly unlikely that you're going to lose that game and you go on to lose 4-3. Like, it's also silly season, isn't it, at the minute in the Championship? We're not seeing the 1-0s, 0-0s, those type of results. You're seeing lots of really high scoring games, and that tends to happen at the start and the end of a season where a team is settling in to kind of like the way they want to play and trying to understand what a manager wants from them, and at the end of the season where you come up against opposition who one of them's sort of on the beach or they've not really got that much to play for, and one team's like fighting or scrapping for their lives. But yeah, I do take your point, and I think you are caught within a rock and a hard place. I just think in terms of modern football, you need to be more adaptable than just sticking to one way of playing, because there will come a spell where Mill will go through a really difficult patch in terms of teams will figure out how to play against that. Whether that be load the back 4 to turn it into a 5, whether that be to load your midfield, whether that be to basically just stop any wingers running in at you. There will be sides that figure out how to go about playing against this Neil Harris side, the same as there will be sides who figure out how to play against Leeds, the same as there will be sides who figure out how to play against Sunderland. Ironically, the same way that every other side who we faced aside from Plymouth have figured out how to play against us.
Yeah, definitely. Being on Sky for that 4-0 hammering certainly didn't help us at all, did it? No. Not saying that you only have to be on Sky to be scouted. You kind of touched on it there a little bit. Kind of Millwall are billed as a bit of a physical side. That's what everyone thinks, or a Neil Harris Millwall side anyway. I just don't feel like we dealt with it very well at all. And I think whenever we come up against a team that has got a bit of physicality about them, we just fall apart. I don't think we've kind of got that in us. We're too nice in ice, and we a bit of a pushover really. I mean, when you look at the midfield, I mean, there's not many in them. You've got Shea Charles, who's 20 years old, and you've got Barry Bannon, who's 4'6", and like a little Jack Russell. Runs around a lot, but when it comes to being a physical presence in that midfield and winning headers and stuff, I mean, he did win a header actually from a corner, which I thought was wow. 2 in 2 games. He won one at Grimsby as well. So maybe he's been working on that. But we just seemed to be too much of a easy pushover. I mean, we'll talk about the goals a little bit later, but even Ugbo got pushed off the ball for the first goal. That's kind of where it all started from. But yeah, we just haven't got that physicality about us, have we? And I think we spoke about that on on the mammoth transfer deadline show. And massive thanks to everyone that did tune in on Friday night. I hope you appreciated the time and effort that went into fuck all happening for 3 hours. We appreciate it nonetheless.
But it goes back to that idea of physicality, and I won't do Millwall a disservice, and I'm not going to say that they're an outstanding football side, but I'm also not going to say that they didn't deserve the 3 points yesterday, because based on the second half performance, they thoroughly deserved the 3 points yesterday. You have to, in this division, earn the right to go and play football. It's not the Premier League where you get time on the ball at the back and an ability to knock it around, and it goes into a defensive midfielder or a 6 position, however you want to lay that out, and they have time to turn on the ball, get their head up and look up for it, and then when it gets to the final third, everything happens at 100 mile an hour and it's like pinball. The Championship is like a full pitch game of pinball. Like, the entire thing is competitive, the entire thing is combative. It's very rare that you get an opportunity to actually just have more than 2 or 3 touches on the ball, which was one of the things that I suppose I was critical about an ex-player of ours in Will Volks. I thought he wanted too many touches on the ball to actually be able to release it. Yesterday, we didn't even put ourselves in the position to be able to have 2 or 3 touches on the ball. For my money, it was down to the tactical setup, because in the systems that we've seen so far this year from Danny, the central midfield position is so pivotal to the way that we play. And also the 2 centre-back positions are incredibly important to the way that we play in terms of that progressive, fast movement of the ball into positions that can hurt you. Because this team can hurt you if you get the ball forward quickly into wide areas and then push up the pitch. This team cannot hurt you by just bopping it around the back and carving you open from back to front. We are not at the level and not capable of doing that yet. So you have to be able to progress the ball quickly. Millwall did their homework and recognised if you stop those 2 centre midfielders being able to drop deep and receive the football, our centre halves are not good enough or not able to move the ball quick enough into those wide areas to bypass those midfielders. So what teams are doing at the minute to us, I feel, is they are loading that centre of the pitch and always having one player spare who can do all of the ratting and all of the running around to kind of like nullify where the free space ends up and where the ball goes. Yesterday, in 4 games, we seem to have gone from a 10 that drops in to receive the ball off the left back and right back to a 10 who is now more a traditional number 10 who stands on the edge of the centre circle in the opposition half and just waits to receive the ball. What we saw with Leeds as well was they were good enough to be able to play through lines. Their defensive players were able to play through lines. Their left back and right back were able to play a 20-yard pass that completely cut out the midfield. We do not have a capability at the moment. And I'm not saying it's because the players aren't capable. I'm saying that the players are clearly bereft of confidence at the minute from being on the end of what, a 4-0, a 2-0 and a 3-0 defeat.
But Matt, Joe, the difference when you mentioned about Leeds there, the difference was the movement. One's dropping and one's going. Do you know what I mean? So one's dropping deep or dropping short to pick up the ball, and what happens? They knock it back to where it's just come, but then someone else has filled that gap that he's left, and he's sucked in a defender as he's come short, and then someone's spanning behind him. The ball goes back to the person who's just kicked it. Then guess where it's going next? Straight to that kid who's just filled that gap, and then that's what they're doing constantly. They're moving. I said it at Grimsby. The movement was non-existent, especially in that first half, and I thought it was exactly the same again yesterday. Just no movement. There seems to be no sort of understanding between each other, no cohesion, no sort of knowing what the other player's going to do. And I've said, do you know what? It's not really a problem just for this season. I've said it for many seasons. Even back in League One, but even when we came down out of the Championship, there's been so many times where. How many times do you see other club, and they're on the same wavelength. They just know where someone's going to pass. It's like one-touch football. They know that someone's going to be there. They make the pass, and lo and behold, they're there, and they find someone. But how many times do you watch us? And like what you said, everyone needs like one touch too many to get the ball under control or to find that pass, and it should come second nature. They're working with each other constantly, in training. All right, people will be listening to this and saying, well, we've got 11 new players. You've got to have time to gel. Yeah, I totally get that. They have had all pre-season, though. 9 of those new players, have been there for, even after the St. George's Park, however many weeks ago that was. You've got to have that understanding and knowing where someone's going to be. But I suppose, when confidence is shot and you've conceded 4, then you concede another 2, and then you see again we go another goal down, and then we're just making it really, really hard for ourselves. I'm going to come to it. Gary's commented and said it's a terrible performance. We looked flat, knackered, not bothered, and don't get me started on our throw-ins. Absolutely atrocious. I'm just going to pick up on that point where he said they look knackered, because I thought exactly the same thing. Matt, have they been worked far too hard in training? We know that Danny Röhl has pushed them quite hard, because we know that because Ike Ugbo has, like we said before, left us, had a summer, come back, and seemingly wasn't fit enough to start up until this point. So they have been worked very hard. Have they been worked too hard? Because I did feel like they looked tired, especially in that second half.
I think it's a fair point, because if you go back to right at the start of the season, just after the Plymouth result, and you go back and listen to Danny's interview, I'm sure it was with BBC Radio Sheffield, where he says, players can run now, which was something that we all lambasted the club for last year, is that they weren't fit enough and that they couldn't run and that they looked completely gut spent after 10-15 minutes. I suppose on the idea of being tired, does that come from a lack of, up until this game, squad rotation in key and important areas? If you look at how pivotal last season our wing-backs were to us, which was Marvin Johnson and Paul Valentin, their 2 main and biggest assets is their ability to go box to box all game for 90 minutes. You can mention their quality in terms of delivery, you can mention their quality in terms of beating man, you can talk about their numbers in terms of assists and finishes, whatever. One of the things that they are consistently, and have proved since they've been at the club, is that they can go for 90 minutes at pretty much 100 mile an hour. This looks very different to what Jan Valery and Max Lowe have been used to and accustomed to. If you look at Svante, I'm a little bit hesitant to kind of mention anything to do with the centre of the park, because I think the centre of the park is better suited to a 3. I think if you're doing it if you're going to play a 2 with a 34-year-old in the centre of midfield, who, I am a huge Barry Bannon fan, but he is looking for the first time, in my opinion, where people have said this for a number of years and I've just not bought it. He looked leggy yesterday and looked like he was getting overran yesterday and looked like he was getting overran against Leeds and against Sunderland. If he is your most important and creative player, which currently he is the only one who looks like even creating anything, we have to protect that player, and you have to put players around him who will do the work of him, because that's what good sides do. If they've got a player who is the wrong side of 30, but is technically so gifted that they have to start game in, game out for their sides. You go back years ago, we mentioned a number of times here, Leeds and Pablo Hernandez, they absolutely packed out the midfield around him to enable him to basically just go, no, you just do what you do. You've earned the ability to go and have a rest. When we're out of possession, don't bother. Just, get yourself back into position, but don't go tear-arsing around because we want you on the ball. I think if you look at our two wide players in Masaba and Gassama, I think, from my personal opinion, last year, towards 60 minutes onwards in games, they would tire. And I think that's due to the nature of both of them are very explosive players. Jamal Lowe, over the past couple of seasons since he's been at Bournemouth, has been, if we take last year at Swansea, he was an impact player off the bench. He wasn't a guaranteed starter. And up until January, Ike Ugbo wasn't playing consistent football. So what you have got is a side who have been put together. I do think it's a competitive side for the amount of money that we've spent. And I do think it's a more than competitive side for a mid-table championship finish, which we've been saying right since the start of pre-season. But at the minute, I don't think the setup, the tactical thing are helping players, and they are tiring quicker than they would do if they were able to carry out what the manager wants. I think there's got to be a recognition from the manager, from the coaching staff, that at present, there needs to be some adaptation to the way in which that we want to play. Now, whether that happens after 10 games or not, because I don't think he's going to give up on this easily. I agree with you, they look tired, and I agree with the comment, Gary, that I do think that they look tired, but I think that's probably more down to they are in a system that currently means you need a Sunderland in terms of youth age. You need a 23, 24-year-old average age squad who can go 90 minutes box to box all game and come off the pitch fresh and are ready to do another 90. Currently, we don't have that.
But for me as well, Matt, we made the subs, and we're probably going a little bit further on here, but we made the subs, and, Kabaki come on, Windass and Smith, Ugbo, Jamal Lowe and Jerry Gassama came off. Ugbo, I get it, Ugbo probably can't do the full 90, and it was always going to be a thing that he did 60 minutes and came off. But for me, you bring in players off where it's like it wasn't for the want of trying with those two. They just didn't get any service.
Nope.
So by putting Michael Smith on and Josh Windass to replace both of them, guess what? They're not going to have any service either, because the problem. I mean, I said, Ugbo's come off probably because of 60 minutes, and I get that. But the point I'm trying to make is, we've made subs, but just continue to play it in the same way. I mean, we made them subs. It was only 1-0 at that point. The first half was very, I don't want to say even. I think they probably shaded it with the chances that they had, but it was 0-0. We were still in the game. We go a goal down, and then we make the changes. Like I said, we're probably going to make them on 60 minutes anyway. But surely at that point, we could also, it was a boring game. We wasn't creating anything. Surely at that point, I mean, Ingleson came on with 7 minutes to go, and just replaced Shea Charles and went like for like. I maybe we could have perhaps seen a bit of a change in style. On that, we are going to. I did ask another question again yesterday, what needs to change. I'll read some of them out a little bit later on. But one of quite a big theme that people were saying was we need to ditch this style of play that we're playing. We need to go to a back five. We need to do this, that, and the other. My point on that is, you're not going to go through a full pre-season playing in a certain style of play and in a certain way. And let's be right, we did it last season as well. I know he changed a little bit come the end, but you're not going to set yourself up to play in a certain way and then 4 games in, just ditch that for something totally different when you've played 2 of probably the best teams in the league, one at home, and obviously Leeds play. One at their place, as in Sunderland, and the other one at home. And then just suddenly, and we've won one of them games as well, by the way, of those 4. So 3 poor results. We're not just going to tear it all up and try something different. I mean, it might look like that's what's needed, but I don't think we're going to see that. The QPR game, we're just going to play or try and play the way that Danny wants us to. We're not going to. I don't think we're going to go back to a 5. We're not going to start hoofing it long. We're not going to fly into tackles. It's probably going to be much of the same and hope that it comes. So, do you agree with that, Matt, or do we need to kind of ditch the system? But I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, I agree with you, James. But I will say this: on 30 minutes yesterday in the away end, there was a good number of people who were quite vocal in saying, "Fuck this! I'm going for a beer." Like, this is crap. I'm going for a beer.
It was shit. It was awful.
Yeah. I couldn't argue with them in terms of like, oh no, you can kind of see what they're trying. No, it was appalling. But you would be, if this was another side, remove the emotion from it for a second. Let's say, I don't know, Crystal Palace, who had a great end to the last season in the Premier League. Oliver Glasner comes in and they've completely moved away from this, really dull and boring style under Roy Hodgson, which has just had them finishing 16th and 14th in the Premier League for years. Glasner comes in and automatically lifts everybody and they cruise to a really good finish and all the rest of it. If you turned around to a Palace fan and said 4 games in, should you be ditching that and going back to what Hodgson was doing when it was like, you've got to get it forward, you've got to do this? Every single one of them would go, no, you're fucking mental. As would we as fans. Like, you go, well, you don't question it. We currently, in my personal opinion, we do not have the players in that system and in that squad to play the way that we did at the back end of last year, which I know is what a lot of people would like to do, in going back to recognising, perhaps going a bit more direct from the back, perhaps being this. I just don't think we have the players to be able to do that, because 2 of the biggest catalysts last year for it, in terms of the success for it, in Ike Ugbo, in Jan Poveda, in Anthony Masaba, in all of those players, they were playing in a manner which was, you get 1 or 2 chances a game and you've got to take them. Like, you have to take them. The whole premise of this is that you see a performance that's more akin to Plymouth. No, it's never going to... I'm going to burst the bubble now. It's never going to be that good for the rest of the season. It's just not. You're not going to come up against that side unless you're playing Grimsby or that Plymouth team every week. It's just not going to be that. But the idea is that you will create more chances in the long run playing this style, because we know this manager is driven by numbers. And if the numbers state and dictate that you are going to create more chances playing this way, that is what he is going to do. I think I'm trying not to go all, this is the Sheffield's a working class city and this is this. I think we as Sheffield Wednesday fans have been so accustomed to watching shit for years.
Yeah.
Terrible styles of football, terrible this, terrible that. If you think back to when Darren Moore was on a 20-odd game unbeaten run, there were so many voices saying, oh, well, the style of football's shit. Okay, well, we're trying to play a different style of football now, which is totally removed from that style, and people are saying this is shit. Genuinely, what would you like? If you would like to just go and watch, a team just beat everybody every week and it's liquid football, go watch Man City, go watch Arsenal, because that's what you're going to get. With us, you cannot at present, we do not have a side that can go and be combative. We do not have a side that can go and be, heading and flying into everything and winning long balls and winning flick-ons and playing from knockdowns. We don't have that. Like, we haven't got the players for that, and we haven't got a manager that wants to play like that. So the whole ethos of the club is not set up to play that way. I get, for a club that is really built on, you have to do that for us to earn the respect. Like we've said it a number of times on here, Paul Valentin technically might not be the most gifted footballer, but the reason why he has cult hero status at Wednesday at present in this side is because he works his nuts off, never ducks a tackle, never ducks a header, will go into an 80-20 where it's in the opposition's favour and still throw himself into it full-blooded. The problem is we do not have a full 11 with that attitude and mentality, because if you did, it would be, loads of passion, loads of effort, really great. But you wouldn't go and beat teams 4-0. You wouldn't go and, you wouldn't look at some of the moves and the passing moves, and you just wouldn't be able to do it.
Matt, there's a reason why Jose Semedo's got a mural outside Hong 2 and Josh Windass hasn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because one of them is much technically better, far superior in terms of technical ability than what Jose Semedo was. But Jose Semedo put 110% effort in, and he's a hero, according to every single Sheffield Wednesday fan. But there was far more better players than what Semedo was. Now, I don't care what anyone else says, but he tried every single game and left everything out on the pitch, and that's what we as Wednesday fans, and I can only speak as from Sheffield Wednesday point of view, but that's why we love those sorts of players. And I spoke about this. I don't know if it's pre-season or I've certainly spoke about it previously, and we've said kind of, I think it was more like when we were in League One, and would you take kind of another 3 seasons in League One if it meant that you kind of rebuild the squad, rebuild everything from the ground up, and then go again and then have a real good charge? If it meant you was going to be a better club, but you knew for 2 seasons it's going to be absolutely shit, and you're probably going to be down near the bottom, and potentially facing relegation, and people at the time go, I'd take that. Yeah, of course I would. No. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. Because we're kind of doing that now. We're trying to play a style of play now, and everyone's lost their mind. Because, me included. And look, we go to the football, we travel up and down the country. You've gone down to London, you've spent however much money you've spent on your tickets, your travel, the beer, and you said here it was great up until 2:55, before we kicked off. Football is an entertainment sport. You go there to be entertained. Nobody wants to go there and whinge and moan, apart from that guy that sits behind me on the north stand. I'm sure that's all he comes for. But you go there to be entertained. You don't want to see your team just get beat every week. No. But you can't have it both ways, can you? You can't watch fantastic football. Somewhat a fantastic comment over on Facebook from Nathan, trying to play champagne football with Morrison's brand Prosecco, and that is 100% it, I think.
Yeah, and I completely understand that. If you were an opposition at the minute, currently, to play against us and to get success, you set up in, to borrow a coin of Football Manager phrase, you set up in what's called a passive block, where you don't put pressure on our centre-halves and you don't put pressure on our wide players. You get set up in shape and wait for one of them to try and make a pass into midfield, and then you go, because they're not good enough to do it. Like that's all you have to do at the minute. You set up in sort of like your striker kind of like just hanging off them, doesn't go tear-arsing around after them because you're making it easier for them. Give it to them. How many times yesterday did we see the ball go from Ihekwa to Bernard to Lowe, back to Ihekwa, back to Bernard, back to this, then out wide?
Too many times, Matt.
Yeah. And then back to Beadle, and then they'd all push up, and then he's got no option but to go long, and we give you the ball back. It's not complicated to play against us at the minute. If you go back to that opening day of the season, the reason why we were so successful is because Plymouth tried to do exactly what we were doing to them, which is press them, and that just creates easy one-touch passes, like just pop it off, pop it round there, and then you're in acres of space. Currently, we've said it a number of times. You guys said it on the pod last year a number of times up until Christmas. Stop Bannon, and you stop us at the moment. Stop the ball getting to him, and stop the ball getting to Masaba and Gassama out wide, and you have completely nullified at Sheffield Wednesday Football Club for 90 minutes. And then it's, can you break them down? And we will, at present, always give you opportunities. However, having said all of that, I agree with you in terms of I would comfortably now take 2 years of this and squad rotation and gradually building a squad to get better and better at playing this style of football. And if Danny Roll, say for argument's sake, at the end of this season or next, leaves for a higher job or walks out or whatever, you go and appoint a manager who plays a similar brand of football, and you build and you build and you build and then gradually get up to the top. Because the other way of doing it is what Birmingham City have done in League One. Spend your money and hope you get out. And if you get out, brilliant. But we've all seen where that puts you if you don't get out of the Championship. When you have chucked all that money at it, you end up falling away and a club with no identity for the best part of, a decade, which is effectively what we've been up until this past year.
Yeah, well, you look at Brighton. They had Chris Hughton when this project first started. Then he left. Then they brought Potter in. He went, De Zerbi come in, he's gone, now they've got Hertzler in. They're just continuing that same style of play, same ethos, same everything else. It's just a continuous thing. There's not just, we'll think there's only one Danny Röhl out there. Like, there's not. There'll be other people that are, he's not the best manager ever. He might have been the best manager we've had for quite some time. Yeah. But no doubt about that. But there is also other managers in that same ilk that'll be coming through as well. I know he's on young anyway, and we have got to set ourselves up for that. And yeah, look, I'm prone to having head loss moments, and I think this is the beauty of doing this podcast when we do it. I mean, I know we've had a few where it has been immediately after, like the Sunderland game. But it's great to kind of have a day and a half or whatever it is to actually collect your thoughts and stuff. Because I was raging after full-time whistle yesterday. It just ruined my day completely. But yeah, let's park some of those for now. Let's talk about kind of let's talk about the goals really. I'm just going to read a few of the. I'm going to read a few.
This is just going to get a lot more positive, isn't it?
Well, I can't see how it's going to be that positive talking about 3 goals conceded, but I am just going to read a few comments out, so do keep them coming in. Richard's gone with, I think Masaba and Gassama can work, but it has to be in a 4-3-3 or at home against weaker opposition. He's also gone and said, we're too hot and cold. Looks like the players decide in the first 10 minutes, if they're going to turn up. Joseph said, not ambitious enough, defending non-existent. All 3 goals could have been prevented. Yeah, we are going to be talking about them in a second. Gary's gone with, their big lad up front is what Michael Smith should be. Not good enough. Lolo said, we need to make sure we score first. Yeah, don't score first. We'll probably lose. Did you see the video coming from the Millwall fans? They were singing, how shit must you be? He's falling asleep. There's a lad on the front row fast asleep.
I've never been more fucking jealous of an individual in my life, honestly. And I saw that video and I was on the train on the way back. I was thinking, good God, he's at that away end. He had the best day yesterday. He had the best day out of every single person in there for the second half.
And the fact that he was fast asleep, either he had a shit night at work before and had no sleep then, or he's had a fantastic, few hours in London before kick-off. Sammy says it was like taking candy off a baby for Millwall yesterday. Amount of times we were barged off the ball because our players weren't strong enough or didn't fancy it enough. Mark said it's not just about stopping Bannon. A dispossession of Bannon has been the best mode of attack for the opposition in the last games, and his critics would say the last 3 seasons. Let's talk about these goals then. They all came in the second half. The first goal came on 58 minutes. Coburn with the goal. I must admit, I thought it was offside when I saw it in kind of real time. Obviously, you was there. You thought exactly the same. It's just poor tracking back. I mean, the ball across was kind of uncontested. And then Coburn just puts it in an empty net. Valerie, he just goes behind him. He just peels off him, gives himself that space, which allows that ball to come across. And I suppose Valerie can't really do much about it. If he gets a toe end on it, he's just probably going to put it in his own net. But just a really simple goal that, like the comment was saying earlier, just could have been prevented.
100%. Like, when you look at where that goal originally comes from, it's a clearance from Millwall that the ball is originally won by Michael Hector at the central of defence. When the ball goes up into the air, we have 2 Sheffield Wednesday players jumping with a Millwall player. We've got Barry Bannon and Jamal Lowe. The Millwall player is in between the 2 of them, and either one of them should win that ball. It has to be a Sheffield Wednesday ball. And if we win that back, from there, we are actually in a really advanced position with 5 players going straight at their back 4. Neither of the 2 of them jump. And it comes straight back to us. Now, again, Shea Charles does well because he's then facing kind of like 2 players. He wins that third ball that comes down, flicks it into Max Lowe, which is a good header, finds the space out wide. Max Lowe plays, again, good ball into Ike Ugbo's feet. He has to be stronger and hold the ball up. He kind of loses his footing, but then sort of it appears on video like he throws his foot back as if he's trying to get some contact or initiate some contact to get a free kick. Referee rightly doesn't give everything. You've then lost the ball in the transition. There are way too many players who are then concentrated in one small area of the pitch. And again, 2-3 quick one-touch passes just around them have completely removed all of them. It then gets to George Honeyman, who is kind of like facing straight down Dishon Bernard. Bernard, same as what we were saying with Iorfa against Leeds, has to go with the runner in behind, allow Charles, who's actually quite close to George Honeyman, to try and come across and to cut the ball out or to force him backwards or to force him down the line. He doesn't, and he goes to close Honeyman down. The ball that's played to Duncan Watmore is crap. It's under hit, it's scuffed, it's with his toe. It is terrible. Watmore is so bad. Duncan Watmore's quick, but he has to check his run to be able to actually gather it in. He's then got acres of space because Michael Heck was not too slow in getting across. I think Michael Heck was probably thinking, well, actually, my positioning's all right here. But then when the ball goes in behind, he's thinking, oh, shit, panic stations again. He comes across. Ultimately, the ball in, again, looks like it goes straight through his legs. And yeah, the defending from Jan Valery at the back, but I was full of praise with him, and I've tipped him to be. I mean, this sounds an awful tip now, doesn't it? I've tipped him to be player of the season at us.
He must have a cracking season from now on in, Matt, to get that one.
But that is criminal from a defender at the back post to not just leather the ball into rows. You were saying he gets a touch on it, it probably goes in. I'd argue he's about 10 yards out. There's a number of different things that you can do. You can run back into Coburn and make it difficult for him. You can go to the ball. You can try and clear it. He's just caught ball watching. If we think about the goal that we scored down at Millwall in February with the Masaba with the ball into Ike Ugbo, if you go back and watch that, there's two centre-halves who are just watching the ball and not watching Ugbo. And they've got no idea where he is. I think it was Liam Cooper who loses him. And he's like, the minute a striker can see the number on a defender's back, you're in trouble if the ball's good. And so it proved. But again, such an avoidable goal at so many different points. And it comes from players not winning individual battles and really fighting to contest what was, up until that point, a really, really hard-fought game against a side who were big and physical. And that goal just epitomised the fact that, there were too many players shirking away from things yesterday.
They just cut us apart with just two or three simple passes. It wasn't anything, it weren't a fantastic goal. It's not going to win Puskas Awards, is it? Do you know what I mean? It just simple football. Yep. I mean, there was one where the ball's when Ugbo's lost it and the ball's broke on halfway, you kind of sent that kind of screenshot or you froze it. And if you run it forward and you see Max Lowe, and it's like he's marking a ghost. He thinks someone's going down the line, and I don't know whether that's because how the lad's shaped, and then he's obviously played it inside. But Max Lowe just kind of runs away from where the ball's going. It's like it's like muscle memory almost. He just feels because he's a left back, the ball's going to go down the line. Maybe that's kind of what Millwall normally do. I think Millwall perhaps. I think they did actually change the way that they play a little bit. To be less of a direct team. They weren't just long ball merchants. They did actually try and get the ball down and play a bit of football as well, which probably surprised us a little bit as well. But yeah, it was far too easy, and it's 1-0, and but even though we were, like I said, Millwall was shading it, we were still in the game, and I thought we actually started the second half fairly bright. It was a bit end to end. I didn't know whether we were going to relax a little bit in time and play more of our game in the second half, because I was trying to tell myself, like, look, we've had one shot in the first half.
Sorry, James. Sorry, I've just got you sat at home trying to convince yourself it's got to be better than this. It's got to be better.
I was thinking to myself, and I was saying, maybe we're just playing like this because we are just trying to see what Millwall are all about and just stop them from playing their game. But then in the second half, you've got another 45 minutes where you can perhaps change and realise that actually, Millwall are there for the taking. But then, again, it's a goal that's all right. It was 30 minutes into the second half, but I just kind of knew at that point, because of how the game had gone and we'd not created anything, when we were still not really created much. If you watch the highlights on YouTube, it shows you the free kick from Barry Bannon. That is it. We had an XG of 0.19. Now, if you add up the XG from the previous 3 games, you don't even get to 1. So the stats are saying that we didn't even expect. They're not even expecting to score 1 goal. You can't. No. We've come away from these last 3 games, and not once have we said, we were unlucky there. Do you know what I mean? Like we've just gone. We've deserved to be beat on every single occasion, and that's not. That's just calling a spade. Really, that's just how it's been.
That XG, James, I think comes down. It's rare that you can say this. That XG shouldn't be pinned on our strikers currently, because they are getting fuck all service. Like, what? Legitimately, what service are they getting? There was the Barry Bannon free kick and Josh Windass having a P-roller from 20 yards out on the edge of the area. Like, where was the service? You know, just, I don't want to cover old ground in terms of going back to that first half, but there was a moment where Anthony Masaba broke down the left. He's cut inside and he's drilled a ball at, I think it was Jeddy Gassama who was stood on the edge of the D, like absolutely drilled the ball at him. And it's not even to him, it's 2 yards behind him. And he's had to go and fetch it, then turn and shape his man up, then trying to play it into Ike Ugbo, which by that point, Millwall have got 6 or 7 bodies back. Like, it's that, and that comes from when players are snatching at chances and snatching at the opportunity because they're starved of the ball. Because I can imagine if you are Ugbo, Jamal Lowe, Jeddy Gassama, Anthony Masaba yesterday, the way in which that first half went, you must have been thinking, right, when I get the ball, I've got to do something. Like, I have to do something. Like, I've got to beat the man. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Rather than just going, let's just keep the ball for 5-10 minutes in an advanced position and just push ourselves up the pitch and put a bit of pressure on these. Because it was... I just think it's tough to blame it on the strikers when actually, when you look at the service that they've received from the Sunderland game, the Leeds game, and then yesterday, I think the service that they've received has been next to none, and when it has come in, it's been poor.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, XG is not just on strikers either. Anyone can create a chance. You know, we had corners as well. Again, nothing.
They're not fucking opportunity to create a chance.
Do you know what?
Don't be
right,
silly.
that free kick that I'm even surprised that even came on the highlights, because it was just over the bar. Every single free kick that Barry Bannon takes, he's always 3 foot over the bar. I don't care what anyone says. He don't. I'll give him his dues. He doesn't hit the wall, but it's just it's a conversion every time. And I said this to Stephen. I'm watching it. We get a corner. I don't know why do we clap when we get a corner?
Yeah, it is
because we never ever do anything from them. We don't score from them. We don't create any chances. Same with this, with the free kicks. There's been times where you see another team and they get a free kick from 20, 25 yards or whatever, and you're looking, you're thinking, I can see it's going in there. Like, I don't ever think that when we get a free kick. I never, not even. Certainly not from a direct free kick. I just don't think we never shoot because we're just shit. To be honest, that free kick that we had, I thought, let's let Shea Charles have a go. Because I was thinking, 100%. We don't do anything from them. You might as well let the new kid have a go. You never know. He might just be, he might just be able to do something special. And I think at the time it was 0-0. And again, you need moments in games, but we're just not creating those moments either. And that's what set pieces are. There's some teams in the Championship that just all they do is focus on set pieces. They stay in the game, they get a set piece, whether that be a corner or a free kick, they score a goal. Then that's it. They're 1-0 ahead, or they're back in the game, or whatever it is. There's a lot of teams that do that. Unfortunately, we're relying on doing all the hard work and scoring goals from open play. Granted, against Plymouth, we made it look fairly easy, but at the moment, I can't see where any goal is coming from. Go on.
I was just going to say, James, you could argue that our 2 best set-piece operators in Svante Ingelsson has got one of the most dangerous long throws in the league because he can clear a 6-yard box on the back post. Like, if he really tried, I'm convinced that if you give him a long enough run up, we've got him, and we've got I personally do believe we have got a good dead ball. Like, we have got somebody who's a threat in Josh Windass, both of whom aren't on the pitch, which for a game away at Millwall, where set pieces are going to be crucial, because they were always going to do what they did yesterday. Surely there's got to be some level of, well, one of these has got to be on the pitch. Yeah. And when you recognise that, as you rightly said, when you recognised it's been Stoke at home in 2018 was Bannon's last goal from a free kick, somebody else has got to be having a go. Like, again, as you said, Shea Charles was stood right next to him. All I was thinking was, just because it was dead central and 20 something yards out, 22, 23 yards out, just hit it. Like, just hit it into that, because there was a mass of bodies in that box. Just hit it into the box and hope it comes off somebody. Those, as you say, always clears the wall, because it's that floated free kick, which from inside the D might work. You know, you might be able to get it up and down with zero pace on it, and it just catches the keeper because he thinks you're not going to be able to do it. Doing that from 25 yards is catching practice, but we don't even work goalkeepers together. Catching practice, no.
Keeper's got enough time to have ham sandwich and then still get across to it and pick it out of the air. Daniel Patrick says Coburn always scores against us. I've looked, he does. Actually, he scored a goal for Middlesbrough in a 3-1 win back in 2021. Obviously, he scored yesterday. He also scored at
Bristol
Hillsborough
Rovers.
For Bristol Rovers, yes, in a 1-1 draw as well. Do you know what? If you look at on Transfer Market, they've got a great thing, record against. So as in their record against a certain team. Well, he's played against us 5 times, and he's scored 3. So he likes playing against us. Actually, no, Sunderland is his best way. He scored 5 times in 3 games against Sunderland and won every single one. So, maybe...
There's their first loss coming then. There we go, that's sorted.
Yeah, definitely. Whilst we're on set pieces then, have you ever seen as much comical defending from a set piece as you did on 71 minutes when Watmore scored his 4th goal of the season?
I think
because it was laughable.
Yeah. It's legitimately. I will happily, please put it in the comments. Please put it in the chat. Please, whatever. Give me a worse piece of defending from a single set piece, that we have seen in our lives supporting Sheffield Wednesday, because I cannot think of one. Because the minute that the Millwall players went down and started chucking himself on the floor from before the corner was taken, they did it twice. Referee had to stop it twice. The crowd got into it. Everything was there. You're thinking, I know straight away what is coming here. The way in which that it happened, though, is just embarrassing, isn't it? Again, he got a lot of stick at Sunderland. Both, I mean, me and you were quite vocal about Josh Windass on that podcast, and I know he got a lot of stick on social media. And I think it was it his mum or a relation of his came out and was defending him on social media during the week.
You know, it's bad when your mum has to come out and start defending you, doesn't it? Really.
Well, you cannot jump around like that at the near post like he's doing every single time. Like, it's my ball, it's my ball, it's my ball, it's my ball. And the Nesh, not even a 50-50, like a ball that is completely your ball. But because you see somebody out the corner of your eye, sort of like stick a leg at it and kind of like half-arse it. And then,
do you know what? He was more bothered about the lad falling over. Was with Michael Ehekwa, that lad that he fell over again when the ball came in. You knew it was going to happen. He was more bothered about that, and like you said, jumping up and down. He wasn't ready. He wasn't ready when the ball came in. He wasn't ready to go. You've got to be there. You've got to be set. You've got to be focused on where that ball's going. If you're on the front post, you've just got to make it yours. Most of the time it goes to the man at the front post because I know we give Baz a lot of shit for his corners and stuff, but you're just trying to get it just over that front man. Yeah. Because if not, it's just going to sail straight over everyone. So. Yeah. So as that person on that front post, you've got to be ready, set, and he's not. He's bouncing around. He's looking around. I know the guy comes across him, but just make it yours. You shouldn't worry about anyone else. Make it yours. He doesn't do that. Like I said, he neshes it. Do you know what? I've played it back 3 and 4 times to try and find out where the kid is when he scores. Because I'm looking if it's like someone that's been blocked, or and he's ran through. Genuinely, the 3rd and 4th time when I watched it through, he's fucking stood next to Beadle.
Yeah, with nobody around him.
He stood next to him with nobody there. And the ball, I mean, all these Christmases come at once, didn't he? When that ball comes straight through to him, and he just stood there, and he just just swipes it in and pokes it in from 2 yards, 3 yards. Yeah. Literally, like, I just couldn't believe it when I saw that. You know, sometimes you're thinking, oh, if it's good movement. I mean, to be fair, I think it's Shea Charles, the lad who flicks it on at the front post. It's actually Shea Charles' man, and they do that kind of basketball screening, don't they? Where their lad's just, it looks like he's going to go, but he doesn't. He just stands there.
No, he just stands.
The lad who flicks it on runs behind, and Shea Charles just can't get there, and it only takes that split second. And yeah, it's something that we never really do. Other teams seem to do it against us, and I suppose the only time you really look at it in detail is when it's a goal, and you're looking, going, yeah, they've just absolutely done us there. It didn't. Their cone routine did not come off.
It's one of
but they've scored.
Yeah, I was just about to say, their set piece taker who took that corner must have thought this is the worst. Oh my! You know, like when you eat something, you scuff the ground. He must have hit that, and in his head just gone, fuck's sake, like that, and looks up, and it's in the back of the net, and he's got, how on earth has that happened? Because it is an awful corner. Like, Matt, genuinely.
You play golf, so and I know for a fact this will have happened to you, where it's a shit shot. You've thinned it, and it's like hit the face of the bunker, popped up, and then gone about 2 foot from the pin or something like that. That's kind of like what his corner is. He's just, oh shit, oh it's a goal.
James, I've also taken a corner during pre-season where you've not kicked a ball in about 7 weeks, and all you've been doing is drinking all summer, and you kick the floor and you go, fuck, that hurt. Like, I've also done that. That was legitimately what it was like watching that corner go in. Again, the defending in the box is what it is. The free man on James Beadle is, again, I think, without wanting to be too critical of James Beadle, I think you see a 19-year-old keeper there, and he's drawn to the ball. Because his actual starting position, just before the ball's kicked, is he's got his hands up in the middle of the air, and he's actually in front of Watmore. And then when everything settles down in that like half second beforehand, he actually gets back goal side of him, rather than being that, you know. You don't want to go back to, you know, the good old days of 2015 and all the rest of it. But if that's Kieran Westwood, he's taking everybody, like absolutely everybody with him.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that comes from an inexperience, just the style of goalkeeper that he is. And it's not, you know, it's not a criticism of him at all, but he is drawn to the near post and he is drawn to the ball. And I think he's not expecting 2 Sheffield Wednesday players to miss it. I think he's expecting, well, one of them will hit it, because you can see from his reaction when the ball, you know, when Watmore tucks the ball in, he's the freedom of the den yesterday to just tuck that ball in, and it's lashed into the top of the roof of the net. And, you know, I mean, that went in on 71 minutes. There was a large number. There was genuinely, and I don't want to be critical of Wednesday fans, because, as you said, there was people who paid a lot of money to get down there and had travelled. You know, they've travelled a lot. You know, Sunderland and Millwall are not too close away days at all. On 71 minutes, there was a number of people who left, because you just knew exactly.
It was game over.
Yeah,
it was game 100%. Over at that point. It's 2-0. It is absolute game over. I mean, just on that, I'm not a goalkeeper by any stretch of imagination, but if I'm there in goal, I want someone on that kid who's there just in front of me, because I mean, as it happened, all right, I know he scored, but I'm just thinking from a point of view, he's just going to. I would feel he's just going to stop me. He's just there to stop me from getting to the ball, and then someone else will score the goal. Like I said, as it happened, he actually scored the goal. But I'd want someone. I'd be screaming, "Fucking someone get on him now!" And you deal with him, you take care of him, so I can get to the ball wherever that ball's going to go. I mean, to be fair, there was one in the first half where, again, you said about, you know, him being a 19-year-old keeper, and the ball bounced in the 6-yard box, and I was thinking, you've got to come and claim that. You know, like 6-yard box is yours. I mean, you could argue anywhere up to the penalty spot should really be yours, but when the ball came in there, and well, half their ground thought it had gone in, actually, when I mean, it was a shit effort at the back stick, to be fair. You should have done a lot better with it. But yeah, you've just got to claim it. But yeah, we can pick bones and everything else, but just all around real poor defending. Then
it don't get better, does it?
It don't, because, you know, we were 2-0 down there and nothing really changed. We didn't. There was no kind of impetus. There was no tempo. There was no intensity. we'd kind of abandoned the pressing. I mean, I don't think it would have worked much against a Millwall side anyway. But they were, we were just kind of going through the motions really, and you see that, like heads drop, and I can't remember what point this was. I don't know if it was 1-0. It might have been 2-0, but Masaba won a corner, and then I was saying to Steve again that he'd won a corner and he's just slow walking back into the penalty box, and I just said to him, like, there's a lot of mentality thing that goes into football. It's not just about the physical side of things. And I said, I want to see him winning that corner. I mean, he was in front of the away fans as well, geeing him up a little bit, running, and you're saying to the Millwall players there, I'm ready, or you. You know what I mean? We're 2-0 down, but we're ready. And he's not. He's just kind of like slow walking, just ambling along. And I know, it's not nice when you're getting beat, but I mean, just show a bit. I'm not just singling Masaba out. I just mean as a team in general. Just show the other team that you're up for it. Bournemouth were 2-0 down against Everton on 87 minutes. They won the game 3-2. Like, it can be done. We just go behind, and we just literally just have no sort of idea, and it just never looks like we're ever going to come back into the game. The defending didn't get much better for the third goal on 88 minutes. Cooper was the one that scored it. Kind of a catalogue of errors, really, in it when you look at it. The lad runs across the front of the defence. Smith's actually in a good position to start off with, and then apparently Deschamps Bernard calls him over or something happens, and then he just kind of says, "I just run into this massive gap that I've just left you, mate." The pass gets goes straight to him. He stands it up at the back post. I don't know who's marking him. The lad who scored.
It's a heckler on the line who runs underneath the ball.
Yeah, he like runs and then just runs past the kid who's going to head it, and then just leaves him. And then, like you said, you're underneath it then, and it happens all.
You finished against Liam Cooper as well. Against Liam Cooper, who wins the header. I know Michael Heck was a big bloke. You ain't going to beat him when he's got a run on you, and you're kind of like trying to. I'm assuming Michael Heck gets back because he's trying to get back on the line to stop if it gets cut back and somebody has a shot, he's on the line to be able to clear it. But it gets lofted up to that back post, and we saw it with EK Ugbo against Birmingham at home last year. Minute you've got a run on a defender, if you've got somebody who can get up in the air, it's completely game over. I couldn't believe that originally everybody then carried on playing because it was clear. I mean, again, to me, it looked clear as day that was a goal. And then everybody carried on playing. And actually then Millwall made sure that it was in the back of the net. There was still nobody on the second one, there who's just booted it. Jeez. Who's just booted it. So you've seen there, James, more passion in me just flicking my arm at it than one of them trying to get the foot on it. Oh, Jesus.
That microphone, that should have been the ball, and that should have been the ball flying away from defence, but there was none of that, was it? It was just, again, the game was done anyway by that point. I mean, as I mentioned, it wasn't for Bournemouth on 88 minutes. They still was in it, but it was over. We didn't see any change. I know we made some subs and stuff, but it was just the same old. We've had one shot on target in the full 90 minutes. We had 30 shots or something against Plymouth, and we've had one on target, which is just, it's just not good enough, really. And look, we've spent far too long talking about this game. We are going to come on to what the answer is, and you've had loads of people tweeting and stuff, so we're going to be talking about that on extra time because we've just kind of run out of time to do it on this show. So do head over to patreon.com/WTID pod and sign up there. You'll be able to listen to us talking about that, and also whether we're right to criticise Danny Röhl as well, because some people, it's kind of the kind of thing that not many people are doing it. It's like you can't criticise him. Whenever he does get criticised, he gets a lot of people backing him. Look, I don't think it's a case of saying is he the right man for the job or not. But we are going to be talking about all of that as well on Extra Time. So do make sure you join us for that. I'm just going to read out some of the 3-word match reviews because there is some absolute belters as there always is. Stuart's gone with one bloody shot. Paul Pashley, it's not working. Ben Robertson, worst under Danny. Dave Searer, my weekend ruined. Philip's gone with piss poor Wednesday. Dom, relegation form performance. Matt Summerhill, joke defending again. Adam's gone with bubble fully burst. I'll just read a few more out. Can't compete physically. Holy defence, Batman. Need more urgency. Bring back Cisco. And that's got to be tongue-in-cheek, surely. Matthew's gone with trust the process in quotation marks. So, again, I think that's a bit of sarcasm. No plan B. Not good enough. Hard lines, lads. I thought that might have been a Millwall fan, but no, he has got a Wednesday profile picture. Can we score? Question mark. Can't see obvious. Too much posing. I'll read one more out. Prime Cisco ball. Yeah, some damning stuff in there. I mean, that is literally on the whistle as well that we get that reaction. So maybe a bit has changed. Let's look ahead to QPR. I know we've got the international break that comes in it, but we might as well give our thoughts about what we think about QPR. It may well change come this time next week, but we've got QPR. It's at home. We'll not kind of talk too much about QPR, but just in terms of us and what kind of we need to do. Matt, we're at home in front of the Wednesday faithful once again. I suppose we've got to do our job in terms of fans. I don't want to see us getting on the backs, after 3 poor results, because that's not going to help things whatsoever. I'm not going to say it's a must-win either because it's far, far too early for that. But we just need to see a massive reaction, don't we?
It's a must-win from the games that are coming after it, because the games that are coming after it are really hard and really, really difficult against tough opposition who will be
West Brom and Luton, I do believe.
Yeah. I know Luton have been shit, and that's probably because Rob Edwards is spending more time on High Performance Podcast than biting his bottom lip every time a goal's conceded than actually figuring out what to do. But it is an important game from the fact of there needs to be a reaction from first and foremost players, because that performance was not befitting of players who wear a Sheffield Wednesday shirt and things that will get your fans on side. Just going without wanting to cover all the game again, James, you mentioned Antti Masaba in terms of that corner incident. We can all throw our hands up in the air and gee everybody up when we're 2-0 up at home and you do it, like in front of everybody. Wednesday fans, I personally felt yesterday, needed coaxing to get him back into that game. As if players to kind of like look over to fans and go, look, we need you. Because it wasn't, I'll be honest, it wasn't a nice away end to be in yesterday, at all. I think if you're going to QPR and actually what you are looking to get out of the game, I think you need to see that from players. I would imagine that there will be changes to that starting 11 that started yesterday. I personally would like to see a change to the team setup. I would love to see a 3 in midfield. Yeah. Because I just think that where QPR can hurt you is the centre of the midfield, and the attacking midfielders would be, again, in my opinion, this may all prove horrendously wrong. It would be one of the most silly decisions to stick with 2 in midfield, where you've got Dembele, you've got Cher, you've got a number of players in that position who can hurt you. I want to see us get back to a little more akin to us actually feeling confident enough to get the ball under control and actually have players showing for the ball, because there were too many times yesterday where players were just standing still and static and there was not enough movement. I think we're also too spread out across the pitch over the course of the last 3 games. There's not enough help coming for players. A player receives the ball with his back to goal and there's nobody immediately in that close vicinity to be able to bounce the ball off other than going backwards, which is exactly what you as a defensive side you'd want. It's going to be a tough game because, QPR, you mentioned lost to West Brom, drew with them across the city, drew with Plymouth, beat Luton. They're a good side. they ended the season strongly last year. They've recruited well in the summer. They've got a good manager, somebody who's as highly rated as Danny Roll by many outside of both of the clubs. A player who we were actively chasing in Dembele. You've got this is a game where, again, at home you have to make a statement, and you do need a result on the weekend, because after that, as you say, it's going to be difficult to see where the next results potentially coming from before you start getting into a little bit further down the line.
Yeah, you mentioned in terms of you want to see three midfield, and I have to agree with you there. I want to see Ingleson back in there. Ingleson, Bannon, and Shea Charles. For me, you've got Shea Charles, who is that, defensive midfielder that you want, that kind of, I don't want to say aggressor, but certainly comfortable on the ball, can take it off the back four, and advance the ball forward. You can see that with his numbers. He wants to be on the ball. He looks calm. He can just play. He can be that extra man when you are playing it out from the back, or even just be that one to receive it. I've got no problems with him receiving the ball with someone straight up his arse, and he'll be able to find a pass. Ingleson is that box-to-box player that'll just, I want him back to what he was like at Plymouth. He's probably one of the most advanced midfielders that we had. And then you've got Bannon in there that is going to, be doing that creativity stuff, but being a little bit more further forward than what we usually see him. I'd give Kabaki a go, if I'm being honest. Just because I feel Gassama and Masaba, other than the first game where, Masaba could have had an hat-trick, he's not really shown a great deal since. There was a moment against Millwall yesterday where he actually used, his pace to his advantage, and he kicked. He was unlucky, to be fair. He just needed to kick it just a little bit more. He just gave the defender a sniff, and he managed to tackle him. But if he'd have kicked it a little bit more, it'd have gone past him and it'd have been off. What happened next, we'll never find out. But other than that, he's not really done a great deal. So I'd think, use them as impact players. Tire QPR out and bring them on 60 minutes. I'm more than, and actually try and change the game. Hopefully we don't need to. Hopefully we're in the ascendancy. But if you need to, you've got that there. And I'd put Low on the other side. I'd play a 4-3-3 really, and put Low on the right. Ugbo obviously through the middle. And then give Kabaki a chance and see what he can do. Really, I've not really looked at the back four. I know there's people saying Paul Valentin and Johnson could come in there. Yeah, maybe. I'm not really too fussed on that. Either can play, and I think we said that in pre-season. Really, it's going to be a point where those are probably going to be interchangeable at times, throughout the course of the season. And I'm not really too fussed on that. But I do want to see a bit of a change. I just want to see a reaction, and I want to see, more importantly, just a better performance than the showings that we've had in the past couple of weeks. I was really optimistic that we'd get something. Well, I'm really optimistic we'd get 3 points against Millwall and kind of kickstart the season again and can get us out of that little slump that we've had of not scoring. But I mean, that's another thing. No goals in the last 3 games. I know we scored 5 against Grimsby, but it was Grimsby. That is another thing that we need, just a goal. Just one goal. Yeah. That's all we need.
But to find that, James, you're right. You've got to do something different with the front 3, 4, however you want to label it. You could even argue that if you didn't want to bring Olaf Kabaki into what is going to be a pressurised game, whether people want to admit it or not, it is going to be, because people have watched 3 back-to-back defeats where we've lost 9-0 and not had a shot. You could make an argument that Josh Windass plays on that right like he did towards the back end of last season and drifts across with Ike Ugbo and Jamal Lowe on the left-hand side, and it becomes a really interchangeable front 3. I agree with you. I think currently neither Masaba nor Gassama have done enough to keep their spots, and that now is, if ever, there is a time to actually go and do something different, because currently, if you are QPR, you would be looking at it thinking, I know exactly what we're going to get here. And these are the players who they're going to play, and this is how they're going to want to play it. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater and completely change your style. I'm saying you play that style with different personnel and you might get a better result, because say for argument's sake, Josh Windass and Jamal Lowe, they will go looking for the ball and they will want to come and receive the ball. So actually what you might find is at times we're actually, rather than being in a 4-3-3, we're actually in a 4-5-1, where because they come in and want to sit and receive the ball and actually get a lot of those touches on it and actually build some patterns of play. Whereas Masaba and Gassama want to sit higher. They want to sit on that left back, right back shoulder and get in behind them. They want to receive the ball just in front of them, spin, turn and go. With Low potentially and Windass, you might actually see players who are looking to bring more in and actually get it a bit more sort of interchangeable and build play all the way up to the box, which again ultimately I think is where we saw the best of Ike Ugbo last season, and I think where you'll see the best of Ike Ugbo this season again is that building progressively towards the box, cut back tapping. He's not a striker who's going to score from 20 odd yards and bang, 25 yards and bang one in the top corner. Saying that he might do, but that's not where his, I suppose, bread and butter is from what we've seen of the sample size since January. He wants that clever movement in the box, tap it in. He wants those, little short 5-yard finishes. And at present, we don't sit defensively enough to allow Masaba and Gassama to go. We want to be higher. So actually, if you're going to do that, personal opinion, I think if you're going to do that, don't have 2 flying wingers. Have 2 players who actually want to go and build and be progressive to get the team further up the pitch.
That's the thing, innit? How many times have we said, those sorts of players wouldn't have worked in League One because we were very much, on top in the vast majority of the games. Whereas we did think in the Championship, when we're going to have a little bit less of the ball, there might be gaps in behind. But then when you play with both of them, and it's so obvious that that's what you're going to try and do, it makes it easy to play against that, because they haven't really got much else to their game other than that pace and getting in behind. The other thing, Ugbo, we've brought him in to score goals. Give him the goddamn service that and he will score them goals. Kind of going a bit back when you were talking about set pieces and Ingelsson and Windass not being on the pitch. Ugbo will score a goal from an Ingelsson throw-in at some point this season, because that's what you want. Throwing it in, a flick on. And when the ball's there, bobbling around in the 6-yard box, that's who you want on the end of it, is Ike Ugbo to score that goal, to the point of, that is kind of his bread and butter, either screwing it back to him, like we did in midweek against Grimsby, or, bobbling around and he'll fire it into the back of the net for you. But if you're not giving him the ball, then he's not really going to be able to do that. I mean, I'm just looking in terms of the amount of touches that Ike Ugbo had yesterday. It's not a lot. 18 touches he had. All right, he was dragged out after 60 minutes. And I know he's a striker, but
not enough.
But
no, it's not enough.
You need more than that, really.
You do need more than that, and you need more than that from a player who is not a target man. I slated him for not being able to keep hold of the ball. I will caveat that with, that's not his game. His game is not back to goal 40 yards out, hold them off, get them in, bring others into play. That's not his game. His game is get me to the edge of the area, then give it me. Because if you give it me there, there's a good chance I'm getting a shot off in under, I don't know, a second and a half, and it'll catch somebody unawares. That's where you need him, and you need to be further up the pitch to be successful with that. With QPR, I mean, we saw them twice last year, and their style doesn't look to have changed drastically this season. It looks like it's going to be, they want to have, the ball, but we are also a side who wants to now dictate possession. The only way to beat a side like that, because they will sit deep on you when you've got the ball, because that currently, as we've spoken about, if me and you can sit here and sit in against us and we're not good enough to break you down, currently with that personnel who we've been playing, I'm sure professional managers can see that as well. Yeah. Whereas if you do change that and have players who play in those wider areas, who want to get on the ball and are prepared to drop deep and are prepared to receive it in positions that, I don't know, maybe take a man who's marking him into an uncomfortable position, you might get some joy. Hey, also, if nothing else, we've lost 3 games 9-0. Try something different.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question here. How many touches in the Millwall box do you think Ike Ugbo had?
1.
Bang on.
Yeah.
To be fair, Jamal Lowe was the only person who had more than Ike Ugbo, and he had 2. So, I mean, just on that, Jamal Lowe only had 2 touches in the final third as well, including his 2 in the box. 4 touches for a forward. I mean, he even looking, Barry Bannon had the most touches in the final third with 13. Masaba 11. Valerie actually had 10. Shea Charles 9. I mean, Olaf Kabaki 8. And if that shows you there something, he was only on the pitch for half an hour, and there he had another one. Masaba attempted 8 take-ons, only 2 were successful. Kabaki only tried 1 and he got past the man. I'm not saying that Kabaki is the answer to all our problems. I'm just highlighting that we might be able to give someone a chance.
100%, and as we've been saying from the start of the year, he's a similar winger, but he's different in the sense of when that the touch that you mentioned where he had it in the box, where I think it was Liam Cooper or the other centre half who was tracking him, and he basically put him in the stand with us. Like the cutback was that good. Like he put him in the stand with us, and he actually looked up to play the ball first time, cut it back, square it back. Nobody there. Because Ike Ugbo, who would have been there, is off. Michael Smith's not there. Josh Windass isn't backing it up. And again, then he's got to take another touch, and then by the time he's done that, everybody's back and they clear the ball really simply. You've just got. I just feel that we're at a position where you've got nothing to lose by trying something a little different. That's not sacrificing your style. That's not sacrificing the way that we play, but it is changing the personnel because they will do something slightly different to what has not worked over the last 3 games. And none of the players, if they are dropped, can argue aside from Shea Charles. You can't argue.
Yeah, just for balance as well. Watmore had 7 touches in the box. Coburn 5. Tanganga had 4. He's a centre-back. That must have been 4 headers from set pieces. Honeyman 3. There was loads more. Watmore also had 20 touches in the final third as well. It's just vastly more than what we did, and like you said before, fully deserved to beat us in the end. Right, let's wrap things up. We will be jumping over to Patreon to do extra time. So as I've mentioned, head over to patreon.com/WTID pod if you want to listen to that one. We're not live streaming it, but you will be able to listen to it immediately after we've finished. So yeah, no reason not to sign up as well. 7-day free trial over there. If you want one of the North Stand t-shirts, which I've seen loads about, hey, that's a limited edition, that one. You can't get a Wednesday Tie-Dye podcast t-shirt or hoodie anywhere other than if you come on the pod. But you can get a North Stand one. So head over to wtidpod.myshopify.com. I think you even saw a Air Powell t-shirt out in the wild as well, didn't you?
I did, bright orange one, looking very resplendent on a gentleman in his 50s who his wife's definitely gone, what the fuck is that? But yeah, it looks genuinely like, and I'm not saying this to blow smoke up our asses here. The design on it looks really, really sharp. Like it does look really sharp, and it is blended in. So if you are struggling for what to get somebody for, Christmas is only around the corner.
Fucking Christmas,
Jesus Christ!
For September the 1st. I mean, to be saying that, actually, I was in what's it called now? I want to say Big W, but that's long gone, that, isn't it? B&M.
Yeah,
B&M earlier. We were getting some paint, by the way, for the downstairs toilet, if anyone was wondering. Green we've gone for, but anyway, it was in there, and yeah, they have actually got an aisle full of Christmas stuff, and I'm thinking, okay, not even Halloween yet.
Telling you, 1st of September, kids are back at school soon. I'll be back in work tomorrow. You'll soon be here, James. Soon be here. So get your shirts now.
Use code Xmas20 for 20%. Don't use that; it won't work. By the way, there will be someone trying it, I'm sure. Or maybe it does work. I don't know. Have to find out. But yeah, let's wrap things up. Thanks for everyone for watching live. Thanks everyone for listening back to this as well, if you listen to it in podcast form. We're going to do extra time, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers.